Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. We are here for our migraine strategy call night. We are on a special day and time because Beth is joining us, and Beth is a teacher. As you can see in the background, she is still at school. So I am super excited that we were able to switch our day so that we could talk to Beth and hear her journey, her story about migraine freedom. So Beth, thank you so much for being here, especially since you're still at school.
I am. I am.
Would you like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself so they know who they're listening to today?
Sure. So like Debbie said, I'm Beth. I'm not always at school this late. Just a little disclaimer for all the other teachers. I work late every other Tuesday. So I am 51 and I am perimenopausal for all of you people in that realm. I've been married for 29 years. We have 4 kids. One that lives across the country, so that's sad, but that's okay. We have one grandson, and I've been a teacher for 28 years. So, and then I've had migraines since I was a teenager.
Oh,
So,
well, first of all, thank you for all you do because I readily admit I don't think I have the patience to be a teacher. So thank you for molding our future.
thanks.
And you're a science teacher, if I'm not
I
mistaken,
am.
right?
I teach biology. Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
So you obviously have had migraines for quite a while.
Yes.
Sounds like your whole teaching career, and
Yes.
obviously when you were younger. So I know when I start talking to women like that who've had migraines for so long, you have a laundry list, a
Yeah.
laundry list of things that you tried to end your migraines. And obviously, they were not 100% successful because you and I ended up crossing paths. So, can you
Mhm.
share with everyone some of the things that you tried and why you think those things actually didn't bring you relief?
Sure. So I have a list. It's so long. I started like most of my migraines when I was a teenager and into my 20s were pretty much hormonal. So, like once a month, I would get a migraine for a few days. A lot of times, Excedrin migraine would wipe those out. They would be
Mhm.
fine, and I would be back to normal. And about between 10 and 15 years ago, that all changed and they became chronic. So I was having anywhere from 18 to 25 a month for multiple days and really severe. So I went to well, I first talked to my primary care doctor and she referred me to a neurologist.
Mhm.
So I had an MRI done and they showed the lesions that you sometimes have from migraines. And so then she put me on Imitrex. Um, that worked for a little while, but and then I tried a chiropractor and I tried massages. I tried to eliminate everything that was on the magic list of things to eliminate. Then I switched to Botox and I actually had quite a bit of relief from
Mhm.
Botox I mean, I think I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
So until last spring. Then last spring, everything switched again, and I was back to having migraines 20 to 22 times a month. And that was when I came across your Instagram post.
That is
And
the worst, isn't it? When you're having success, you
yeah,
think you found an answer. I mean, obviously, Botox would never cure migraines because it's
correct.
keeping them at bay, right? It's hiding them. You're like, oh my goodness, I finally have some relief. And then all of a sudden, that's taken away from you.
Right. It was terrible. I mean, I
Yeah.
ended up in the hospital. I was doing it infusions because nothing would kick them.
Mm.
So for the second part of the question, why I didn't think it worked, I thought a lot about this question because I mean, if you would have asked me probably 6 months ago, I would say, I don't know. I've tried everything. I followed the doctor's rules but I think it's because, like you just said, it's just keeping the symptoms at bay. It's
Mhm.
treating the symptoms and it wasn't treating what was causing my migraines. And also 6 months ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you what was causing my migraines. Like I had a list of things that I tried to avoid, but it always seemed to be different until
Mhm.
I started thinking about that bucket analogy and how
Yeah.
it's so many times a combination of things. And doing all those medications weren't helping that. That was just maybe emptying the bucket a little bit so I could get through to the next day. But
Yep.
it wasn't putting everything together like I've been doing for the past several months. So I think that's been the big difference.
And I think we kind of all feel that way, right? When we first get that migraine diagnosis, it's like, okay, everyone that I talk to that hasn't had migraines, one of the first things they say is, well, don't you just eliminate a bunch of things and you're good?
Yeah.
So even migraine people are like, well, it's red wine, right? It's chocolate, it's MSG. They all seem to know the list even when they don't have migraines, but we know, sure, we can make up this magical list and we can try to eliminate it all, but it's not fixing the problem. We
Right.
shouldn't have to eliminate those things. You shouldn't have to go through life saying, I can never have that, a laundry list ever again. Sure, we each might have one or two things, we shouldn't
Right.
do and shouldn't have, but you shouldn't have to have a laundry list. Like you
Yeah.
said, I eliminated all this stuff.
Oh, I know. I had it like I literally had the list on my refrigerator so I could keep going back and forth from it. And I was like, am I allowed to have that? I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible. And
Exactly.
then you don't, and then I didn't stick to that because that was unmanageable for me. Like I couldn't keep that. I mean, it was too long of a list.
Hmm.
So there were some things that I was like, I knew was on the list, but then I was like, oh, was this on the list? And I just kind of gave up that part of it because I was like, this is too much for me to, to worry with
Yeah.
everything else going on, with running around with 4 kids and with
Huh?
trying to keep up with everything. My son enlisted in the army. So I'm like, it's just so many things.
Yeah.
Like me worrying about what I had to eat every day was just not something else that I was willing to add to it.
Yeah. And we know that stress actually causes more inflammation than some inflammatory foods. So if you're so stressed out about every little thing that you're doing,
Right.
sometimes you're better off just eating the freaking pizza and not worrying about it,
Right.
but we don't do that because we follow everything that's online. So,
Right.
so fortunately you came across us on Instagram and I love that. We do have an Instagram presence, ladies. So many of you here have told me Instagram isn't your favorite, but if you want to venture out, go take a peek at us on Instagram. Um, but I notice, when I'm talking to people, this kind of common theme is they find us, but because they've already done the chiropractics and the massage and the acupuncture and all those things that cost money, right? Even Botox sometimes can cost people money depending on their insurance and how often they're doing it. So you've already dumped all this money in there. It hasn't gotten rid of it fully. And that guilt comes in of, well, I think I found something that might work. I really think this might work, but how can I possibly justify spending that money? Did you feel that way when you found us and we
Oh,
chatted?
definitely. I definitely felt that way. And my husband definitely felt that way because I mean, I'm more of a spender than he is. He is a big like we're not gonna spend money to spend money. But before I had my initial meeting with you, like we had really sat down and talked about like
Hmm.
should I spend the money? And I kind of knew how much it was just through Facebook stuff, so I had an idea of some range
Hmm.
or whatever. So I was like, should I spend this money on this or not? Because I felt like you said, I've tried everything. I mean, Botox for me at the beginning of the year until I hit my deductible was $1,000 a time. Yeah. And then they have the reimbursement plan. So I got a lot of it back, but
But
I mean,
still, up
I
front.
still had to pay that up front and then
Yeah.
I would get reimbursed. So, I mean, and then all the cost of all the prescriptions. So as we were talking about it, he said, he was like, if you really think it's something different that's going to help you, we'll spend whatever it is to take care of it. Because I mean, he trusts my judgment on those kinds of
Hmm.
things. I don't do willy-nilly things. So
Hmm.
it was a hard decision,
Yep.
but I did make the decision the same day that I talked to you because I was like, it's and mainly because since I am a science teacher, I understood the science and you were actually, I was like, man, she's actually talking real science. Like, it's not like some of those things that I've heard or
Not
read,
snake oil.
I'm like, yes, I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about, but like the sodium potassium pump was thrown in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? So I really felt
I
confident
believe you
that
almost smiled when we started talking about that.
yes, I know, because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is this is so different than everything else I had heard and tried and looked at." So I was willing to. And the thing about inflammation also with that is that I was actually teaching that today in my AP Bio class, and the amount of information that they know that they could explain to me that how inflammation is helpful, but yet it can also harm you. I was like,
Mhm.
if I would have known that when I was your age, I would not be in this situation. So it
Well,
was kind of a little funny side
that's
note.
the key right there, right?
Right.
Talk to Kathy and Valentina, two of my team members, And they actually talked to me about the fact that we are seeing a lot more parents join our group for their daughters.
Yeah. I've seen that
So,
on some of the comments and stuff about how
yes,
they
so many
are.
more people struggling. So to be able to get that information out there and
Right.
help kids alleviate decades of pain,
Right.
um, that's just such an amazing gift that we can do. So sad that it's happening, but great that we can help them.
Right.
So it really was courage. I mean, you found the courage based on the fact that you knew there was some science, you had your husband support you. And I know that it is a struggle. I spoke with a woman, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before. Excuse me for mixing my days up. Actually, the day before was Sunday. Talked to her yesterday, and she knew 100% that this was the material that was going to help her. But as soon as we started talking finances, that fear comes in.
Right.
And one of the biggest questions I asked her was, is it a fear because you can't afford to put food on the table? Or is it a fear because you're afraid this isn't going to work? And 99.9% of the time, it's a fear because they're afraid it's not going to work. And it's
Right.
not that we all have money sitting in our pockets. Trust me.
Right.
I don't
Right.
have tons of money sitting in my pocket, but sometimes you just have to make that investment into your health. So I'm so glad you did, because fast forward now.
Right. And I hardly have migraines at all. And it's amazing.
So win-win.
Yes.
Now you mentioned before medications, Imitrex, the famous, the one
Right.
that we all used, right? We all resort to those medications for temporary relief for migraines. And I know that this woman that I talked to is probably what she's going to end up doing, is just keep using medications for a while.
Right.
But people fear, right? They fear making changes. They fear the lifestyle changes that they have to make. It's going to be too hard. But as someone who's successfully completed the program, did you initially kind of have that same concern that you're like, ooh, I don't want to give up my meds. I don't want to make food changes. I'm scared. And then tell me the difference of how you're feeling now.
Yeah. I was worried because I felt like I had changed my food before and I didn't know what the nutrition was going to look like in this
Yeah.
program. I knew it was a different approach because when we had talked, you talked about how you don't have to give up everything and it's
Yep.
going to be small changes. So I was a little apprehensive about that. And I knew that I relied on Botox for so many years that I was nervous to be willing to give up on my medication.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm off of all of my prescription medications. So that is a true blessing because I hate, and I think that my willingness or my wanting to get off of my medications overcame my hesitation for trying the program
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not a person that like I would take forever. I mean, that was part of my problem with how long my migraines lasted is that I hate to take medication. So I would wait until I was so bad I couldn't
Yeah.
stand it. Or I would just take some naproxen, which really doesn't, I mean, that is the one over the counter that was working for me at the time that because I didn't take Excedrin migraine anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My neurologist convinced me to because of the
Stop
rebound and
that. Yeah.
everything they were.
Yeah.
So I hadn't taken that for years, but so I think that I just didn't want to take medication. I did not want to have to be on migraine medication for my whole life because I was
Mm-hmm.
taking at the time when I joined, I was not only doing Botox, I was also doing Nurtec every other day. And I mean, so 2 preventatives and nothing was working.
Yeah.
So my first not Botox is actually next week. And I'm not nervous about it at all. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's fine. I don't have migraines anymore. It'll be fine. So at first, I did get Botox when I was in the program, but it was
Mm-hmm.
only because it was my first, I was only in it for 2 or 3
Yep.
weeks.
Yep.
So I did get it then, and then this will be the next round. And I'm not even nervous about not getting. I would at the time when we talked about getting it, I was like, I don't know if I can give it up, but now I don't need it. I don't need all that pain. So many shots, it hurts so bad. And then
I
so
never did Botox, but that's what I keep hearing. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's painful to get it done. And
yeah,
then it never works 100%
no,
the
it
pain.
doesn't.
It helps dull it, which I wouldn't take that away from anyone, right? Like anyone that's in this group right now, I am not telling you to stop meds. I'm not telling you to stop your Botox. Because as Beth knows, that's not something we stop right as soon as we start
Right,
working with someone.
right,
We make sure that you're ready, your body's ready, and that you have the tools and skills that you need to be able to take care of what you need to without that medication. But at the end of the day, who wants to be pumping toxins into them?
Right. Right.
You
That, I
know?
mean, that was my biggest goal, was to get off all of my medication. And I didn't know if that was an unrealistic goal because I'd been on it for so long.
Mhm.
I really not be able, like right now, all I do is take vitamin or my magnesium in the morning, and that's all I have to take. And I'm like, what the heck? So I've come a long way. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
we don't need that laundry list of meds, right? You know, I think
No.
they said that the average American in perimenopause, or so average woman, I guess I should say, is on 7 medications.
Oh yeah. I
7.
mean, I help take care of my dad, and he's a lot older than that, but oh my gosh, the amount of medication he's on. I'm like, I don't want that to be me when I'm in my 70s. I
Yeah,
want to be healthy.
exactly. And we want meds around for when we need them,
Oh,
you
of
know,
course.
in an
I'm not
emergency.
anti-medication. I'm
Me
just
either. I just like to always say that in every call
right,
because I always get somebody who's like, you just don't like the pharmaceutical company. I'm like,
right,
I just don't like to put anyone on medication for life unless it is something that you have to replace.
right.
Type 1 diabetic, you're going to need insulin.
Of course.
Someone who
Absolutely.
doesn't have a liver, you're going to need anti-rejection meds, right?
Right,
Someone who doesn't have their thyroid med, but you don't have a shortage of Imitrex.
right, right.
You
Exactly.
know, we don't need it, but oh man, this is a wonderful call. So anyone, I should have said this in the very beginning. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to try to pull up Facebook really fast here. Feel free to drop them in Facebook right now, or if you're watching this on the replay, drop your questions for Beth or myself, and we will make sure that we jump on to get those answered for you, of course. I don't know why I'm not seeing us on Facebook right now, so I can't look up the questions. We are on Facebook. Yes, we are.
Yes, I got yeah.
I know I see it on there, but anyway, I can't see the questions right now, folks. So drop them in. We will make sure that we look at them later. So let's go through and just kind of sum this up, Beth, before we finish up here. You
Okay.
know, you have a audience, a captive audience out there right now. Is there anything that you would like to say to these ladies to give them a little bit of hope, to let them know that, you know, you're not someone unique, you know, that I like picked out of, 30 other women that didn't have success and
Right.
threw you on here because you're that special one. What would you like to say to them about your journey?
So I would say I recommend that you just take your time. Like I was one of the people that didn't follow the schedule necessarily
Mhm.
because I'm also a type of person that really likes to understand what I'm doing before I do it. So I took a little bit longer on the modules that I wasn't familiar with, and
Mhm.
that worked so well for me. Like the first module where you're figuring out your electrolytes, like I took a long time on that one because I was like, I need to get this right. I really need to understand it. So I took like an extra week on that one. And then it all balanced out because some of the ones I already knew a lot about. So I think it all balanced. I mean, I still finished the
Mhm.
program within the amount of time. So I would use that schedule, but I would use it as a guide, but
Mhm.
rush through it because you do have plenty of time to get through it all. And just have patience. Like I still have migraines occasionally. So um my migraine freedom doesn't mean I'm totally free of migraines yet, but I went from 20 to 22 a month to last month I had 2. So to me, that is a tremendous win. And I was talking to Debbie before the call about how stressful my life has been the past 2 months. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. And the fact that I've only had 2 migraines has been amazing to me. And in that last one on, I had one on Friday and I was like, oh, I mean, it was a pretty bad one. And I ended up having to take some over the counter meds. But I told my husband and my daughter later, I was like, I don't even know how I lived with these. So it will feel like you are still going to get migraines and it's
Mhm.
okay. But the fact that I don't know how I lived with them like that for so long has been like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. And it's been so amazing to wake up every day and not have a headache. Like it's unreal to me.
22 down to 2
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
4 months.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
So
it's all, and it's not hard. Like it's not hard stuff. Like the nutrition that I changed, like I still struggle with sugar a bit, but I'm getting much
Mhm.
better with that.
Don't
And
we all? Okay.
right.
If there's anyone on here that says they don't, I would like to meet you.
Yes. but I'm getting much better, and I'm like limiting. So now I'm like regimenting when I can have it and how much I can have. And if I don't need it,
Mhm.
I don't ever need it, but
If you can manage not to have it without really upsetting yourself.
yes. Um, and then like the other group that I gave up has not been nearly as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I really thought it was going to be hard, but it really hasn't been. So that part's all been easy. I need to get back on the exercise. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say is that if you feel like you're stuck, is to go back and re-look at a module. Like
Mhm.
for instance, I'm redoing the one where we have to make the list of what's
Your
important, what's not
must-dos
important.
and
Yes, because that's the hardest one for me right now. So I'm rewatching all of that stuff. So take the time to do that kind of stuff when you need it.
yeah,
So
that lesson is one of the hardest for everyone because most of the women that we support, whether they're in the Women's Migraine Freedom Group or working with us in some way, shape, or form, we're like type A, type AAA. We want to do it all. We're working, we're taking care of kids. As you are, you're kind of sandwiched, taking care of your dad,
mhm,
still have 4 kids, husband, job. So it's a lot, and to try to figure out where you fit in and how you can make yourself a priority is a part of this program because it's not selfish to make ourselves a priority. It's
right.
actually one of the kindest things that we can do to our family is to make sure that we have that strength to get to do what you need to do in a day. We had our coaching call today, and I told the group that, last night I was up really late because I didn't have a great day like you, Beth. It was one of those days, and I just let oops, you're in
Sorry.
school, and they're like, forget the lights, you're
I
done.
know.
As Beth's
Why?
getting the light, but I just allowed myself to sleep in the morning. I could. And I thought, why am I killing myself to get up? I deserve to just give myself that extra time I need, and then I can be better for it today. And man, what a difference. Because I don't know about you, but sitting at a computer when you're tired, I think is worse than trying to run around when you're tired.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
So I think we just have to all remember that it is worth it to give ourselves the time and space that we need. And for clarity, for anyone who's listening and they're like, what are we talking about modules and what are we talking about a program? So I'll just sum that up and then we'll finish up this call and let everybody get back to their evening. But we work with women in many different ways. And the reason that I have so many different ways is because I want to make sure that each and every person gets what they need. For some women just coming into the group, a boot camp, a challenge, a master class, that's kind of where they need to start because they're not ready to dive right in. For other women, they join and they literally can't get out of bed. They need some one-on-one coaching. They need massive support. The majority of you actually fall into one of our group programs, typically the Freedom from Migraine Method programs. And we even have different levels of those based on what you need. And the reason I love those programs, and Beth actually brought it up quite a few times, is that in her own way, she mentioned it, we can help you figure out how to tailor all that information for you. Everyone eats a little differently. Everyone focuses on electrolytes differently. Everyone does different exercise. And that is the key to your migraine freedom. If you go anywhere outside of this group and they try to treat you just like everyone else, I highly recommend you put your credit card away and find somewhere else to go because we're all individuals and we all need individual things. We need different foods, we need different support, and that's where you can really make a transformation with your overall health and find your freedom. And that's what Beth did.
Yes, I did. I'm so excited. And you can too, whoever's watching.
Yay. Yeah, I don't know what group we're in. We're streaming
Yeah,
somewhere, Beth. And if we're in the
I
wrong group,
know.
then
Whoever. You
we've
cannot
given
have our
somebody a great interview and we'll add it to the Women's Migraine Freedom Group after. Because still can't find it, but it's somewhere. We're in one of
That's
our groups anyway.
fun.
So, all right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight, Beth. Thank you so much
Of
for your
course. Thanks for
time.
inviting me.
Really, really appreciate it. And this will be a little sneak peek for everyone, but we're actually going to do a panel call. We're doing one in March, and I think the other one's in April. And Beth, is yours in March? Can you remind
Yes.
me? Do you
Mine's
remember?
in March.
March. Okay. So we're doing a panel call in March, and we're going to bring on a whole bunch of educators to share their experience with migraines, what it was like working with migraines and what it's like now. So you got to hear a little bit from Beth today, but wait till we get a whole bunch of teachers in one room. It's going to be a blast. So we'll make
Yeah,
sure we let you
looking
know the
forward to that.
day and time. Beth's going to come back and
I
share
will.
a little bit more on that day. So I
I
am
will.
super excited because ladies, teachers are one of the majorities of people that we help, teachers and nurses. Obviously, you guys have stressful jobs.
Like, maybe it's the stress of our jobs. Maybe that might have something to do with it.
Yeah. So the one panel in March will be our educators, and then the one in April is actually going to be with our healthcare providers. So I am super excited for both of those. But
Ready.
here I go again. I told Beth this would be short and sweet, and here we are long. So I'm going to end this call, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure you reach out in the group. And we will see you next week for our migraine strategy call. It will be on Thursday, the 8th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, and we'll announce in the group next week what we're going to be doing. Have a great night, everyone. Here's to your migraine freedom, and we will see you later. Take care.
Thank you.